Takes Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. The back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big run in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play from scrimmage.
Bearcat Blitz, loaded show coming your way, taking UC fans into the weekends ahead of Christmas and the big holiday next week. I'm your host, Russ Heltman, joined very shortly by my co-host, Neil Meyer. He's from the frontofficenews.com, and I am from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, where we have you covered on all of the news and notes surrounding a busy time for UC basketball and football, touching on all the biggest stories today across today's show, including we wondered how Jizzle James was going to get back onto the team, and we found out how over the past few days, and he made a big entrance, big stamping on UC's biggest win by margin of the season so far, 88-51 over Alabama State. The offense looked competent and looked like it flowed a little better with Jizzle James, who had 16 points in his season debut coming back to the Cincinnati Bearcats program. We'll get into how that all happens and give a prediction for the last chance this non-conference season for Cincinnati to prove that they are on the right track and starting to turn this thing around after building that up a little bit against Alabama State. But, I mean, that's a quad four opponent, their last quad four opponent of the season. Not going to put much stock into a 30-point win over that team. Take a break, and then we will get into Brendan Sorsby saying sayonara, like basically everybody around the Bearcats football program predicted. A new director of player personnel brought in to replace Jack Griffith as he headed to Penn State in recent weeks. And with all the bowl opt-outs, especially in the secondary, Cincinnati is seeing this betting spread climb to a whole new level in terms of their underdog status. And they're going to need a new cornerbacks coach to start coaching up all those new cornerbacks that they're going to have to bring into from the transfer portal as well. And speaking of betting spreads, we are presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook, where you can bet on the Bearcats. If you think this skeleton crew squad that they are bringing to Memphis is going to be able to get the job done, they're 6.5-point underdogs now after opening in the initial hours as 1-point favorites last Sunday over Navy. It's ballooned all the way to 6.5 points the other way, as Cincinnati is listed as a plus 205 underdog on the money line with a point total sitting at 53.5 points. Head to FanDuel Sportsbook today. Make them your choice this college football playoff run for your picks on the betting spreads, futures, where you can use a 30% profit boost on all college playoff future bets right now on FanDuel Sportsbook. Plus, they have a straight up 50% profit boost. Those are very valuable in the betting space on the Alabama-Oklahoma matchup happening this weekend to start getting the college football playoff action rolling. All of that info, all of those storylines coming up after these messages on Bearcat Blitz. Bringing Neil Meyer now from the frontofficenews.com. And I am, of course, your other co-host, Russ Heltman from Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Neil, Jizzle James, he hath returned. And he returned in a way that there was really only one path for him to do it. And it played out over the past month or so, kind of breaking things down. We don't need to really touch on the game. There wasn't much to take away from it. You see, breaking news, people, when you hit 70% plus of your free throws and you actually make shots at the rim and make your dunks, you're going to beat a team that you're way better than. And that's what happened on Wednesday night. I think they missed 2 shots at the rim, 13 of 13 on dunks. Baba Miller had a 26-point career high night, 14 rebounds, a 41 efficiency score, which was fantastic from Baba. I don't know if I've ever seen any player in any UC game that I've covered have a 40-plus efficiency score, and that's what he was able to do on Wednesday night. But putting all that aside, setting it all aside, big win for the Bearcats, Neil. The real story is Jizzle James. His 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a plus 18 in 20 minutes. And what it showed us, Neil, is this wasn't just some reinstatement that happened yesterday. Jizzle James has clearly been with the team practicing for weeks now. Wes Miller revealed that in the post-game press conference. Did not note exactly that Lucas Atari was removed from the program, but that's exactly what happened. They moved him off of the 15-man roster because he has not played a minute this season due to injury issues. And so due to that medical reasoning, they were able to put Jizzle James back on the roster. He reconciled with his teammates, Neil. That was the big question I was kind of wondering about going into the press conference with Wes is how was he able to make amends with guys like Sincere Harris, some of these other players who he had huge issues with in the summer and didn't have that history of years in the program with to be able to kind of lean on and be able to get back into good graces with. But he's done the hard work. He's done enough to get back into the program. And Neil, this wasn't just a Wes Miller decision. He made it clear this was an entire program decision down to all of the players on the roster having a say in whether or not they were going to allow Jizzle back onto the team. The team felt like it was appropriate to do so. And you have the Bearcats sitting at 7-4 with a lot more backcourt depth heading into this Clemson matchup and the top 30 most difficult schedule remaining in the country the rest of the way.
Yeah, Russ, obviously it's very big news, right? So, I mean, it was something that was kind of hinted at for us who have been covering the team and around the program for the last few weeks or so. We kind of heard some rumblings that Jizzle has been on campus working out. He talked to us at the beginning of November back at the Tarleton State game and said, yes, he is going to be back, but the anticipation was that he was not going to play at all this season. And he elected
Wes
to come
said that
back.
in his presser. He said they didn't, until the last few days, last week or so, they didn't anticipate him playing at all. But he came back despite knowing that.
Yeah. And he came back to get on those good terms and make those amends with some of those guys, like you mentioned. And then for him to come back and say, hey, I still want to be around the program despite knowing I'm not going to be playing. Russ, he could have easily transferred out, probably taken a red shirt and explored other opportunities. But the fact was, this is where he wants to be in Cincinnati. And I mean, you saw the welcome that he got back when he checked in the first time last night. Fifth Third Arena, that was the loudest pop that we have heard in a while, was when Jizzle James checked back in. But most importantly, Russ, before we dive into it and the situation and how it arose, it's just great to see him back smiling, like bigger than basketball. Like the kid was going through a lot. And the fact is, he overcame that with a great support system. Wes Miller, these coaches, they believed in him, and it was bigger than basketball. And the fact that these guys welcomed him and brought him back and stuck with him through the hardships, I mean, that's what you coaches do during your recruitment and this process. Like, you get to know these kids for who they are, not just as a basketball player. So that was pretty cool to see and hear Wes Miller kind of talk about that a little bit as well. But it was just, most importantly, it was great to just see Jizzle come out and have the game he did, but most importantly, to wear that smile on his face. Because Russ, when he took the floor, I don't know if you were there or not yet, about 2 hours before the game. I mean, he was smiling ear to ear the moment he walked out of that locker room to get his pregame routine in, and that was just great to see. It was kind of great to see him take that moment in and kind of realize, like, yes, this is a second opportunity. I'm thankful for it, but to still be playing basketball at the university he loves is the bigger thing. And to see that he's in a great state. I mean, Russ, he looks like he is not really too far out of game shape, to be honest. And last night
he looked like he was in midseason form. I mean, he looked better than he ever has. We've never seen that type of high ball. We never really see efficiency from Jizzle James. He's been an inefficient player really his entire career. Shot 40% last season. Obviously, not where you want him to be from the from the 3-point line as well. But Neil went 2 for 3 from deep against Alabama State. Obviously, I mean, this is an Alabama State team that we talked about on Press Row. 309th nationally in Ken Palm's adjusted defensive efficiency entering the game. If you don't put up 80 against this team with top 20 talent like UC has, then the problems just grow deeper and deeper with this 7-4 start and was a 6-4 start entering the game. But yeah, I mean, he looked good. He looked very good. funneled into the rotation very well. Didn't see a lot of Sincere Harris in
Sounds like
this
that's
game.
sounds like that's a back issue that
Yeah, it
they
had to
brought
be.
up post game.
Yeah, it had to be some kind of injury that kept him out of the rotation because he didn't play a whole lot. But you get Jizzle James mixed in there, and you have adequate guard depth to be able to move around. And I mean, Neil, it didn't even matter that Kirk Kriesa went 1 for 9 from the field, once again taking every single shot from 3-point range, and honestly turning down wide open, close to the rim looks for worse shots in multiple points in that game. I don't know what is going on with Kirk Kriesa. The only explanation I have is he does not want to get hurt anymore, and so he does not want to attack the rim and get contact that way. But overall, Neil, I mean, the backcourt depth, the rotations, they flowed a lot smoother, albeit, and we will continue saying this, against a team like Alabama State that takes us now to where we look ahead with the Clemson matchup at 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Cincinnati not expected to win this game, according to ESPN's matchup predictors. Clemson a 73% favorite to get the victory in the Greenville Winter Invitational at Bong Secures Wellness Arena in Greenville, South Carolina, which is just a short drive from Clemson's arena in Clemson, South Carolina. So it's not technically a home game for Clemson, but they're going to have the majority of the fired up fan base there. Neil, thoughts on this game? A team like Clemson going up against Cincinnati. This is not going to be a very easy matchup to handle here, especially given the just complete digression, complete difference in pace between a Clemson team that wants to use every single second, drag out every moment in the half court, find the best possible shot at the end of the shot clock, 329th in adjusted tempo on KenPom this season, versus a Cincinnati team that we saw, Neil, play the best high-tempo offense that they've played all season on Wednesday night against Alabama State. But can they do it against a real opponent? We haven't seen them be able to at all this year with the 60th best pace in the country by adjusted tempo. This is going to be a very difficult game for Cincinnati to win. I think it's good that Jizzle James got mixed into the rotation here early, but I just think the depth of Clemson here, it's going to be too much. The Bearcats have to show me that they can beat a top 50 team before I pick them to do it. Clemson coming into this one ranked 31st nationally on KenPom at 9-3 overall, and going to be one of the better teams in the ACC this season. An ACC that is a lot better this year than it has been in recent years this decade.
Yeah, it's going to be a good matchup on Sunday, Russ. So when you look down, 3 p.m., it's a big opportunity for Cincinnati to go yet on the road to another neutral site matchup, because they were in the game Saturday versus Georgia until the second half started, and then they just don't know exactly what happened. But this is an opportunity for Cincinnati to get back in the win column, right? If you can finish off 8-4 here in the non-conference slate, heading into Lipscomb with the chance to go 9-4, especially how things looked a few weeks ago, Russ, you take that. But
it's all you can
like
take.
You mentioned, like you mentioned, this is
take another loss. It's just even worse.
That is true. That is true. But when you look down at this Clemson team, like you mentioned, they will eat up every little bit of the clock, every second of a game. They'll take it down to the milliseconds in this game. And you saw it versus BYU in that neutral site matchup at the Garden a couple weeks ago, where that game came down to a buzzer beater. I mean, Russ, this Clemson team, you can't take them for granted. I mean, they were up 22 on BYU at one point,
yeah.
And then BYU came back and won on a buzzer beater, but it's going to be a good game. But for Cincinnati, they have to find a way to string something together and go on the road and have a stellar performance. They're going to need it. They're going to need to come out and get Clemson uncomfortable. They're going to have to try and run, but Clemson's going to slow you down. But if you come out and you chuck up 23s with 10 of them coming from Kirk Kriesa, you're not going to win this game. You're not.
Right.
You're going to have to
and
play.
And that was the biggest thing yesterday, Neil, was yes, the offense looked better, but that was in large part because they actually hit 70+% from the free throw line, and the rim shots actually went in. The 3-point ball is still a massive issue. They were under 30% in the game, in large part due to Kirk Kriesa. I mean, the dude just he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat right now. The shot is just not falling.
Yeah, so you got to find ways to continue to play inside out. Plain as day. I mean, you looked at the very first possession last night. They throw that ball into Mustafa Cham. He kicks it back out to a wide open Baba Miller, straightaway three, bang. But for Cincinnati, you have to find a way to continue to play inside out because Russ, I'm going to say it right now on December 12th or December 18th, Baba Miller has to get a paint touch on every possession possible. And if they don't do that, they're not going to score the ball. They're not. And you saw it last night, 26 points, 14 rebounds, and look how efficient he was when the ball was inside. Look how efficient Mustafa Cham was in this offense when they had those paint touches. They have to find ways to get those two guys going on the offensive end because when they do, that will open up a lot for Cincinnati. Jizzle James, including in this factor, Day Thomas. I'm not going to say Kirk Kriesa because he has not been able to hit anything so far this year. But it will open up some offense for guys like Sean Abayev, Day Thomas, Jizzle James, whoever that may be. But you have to find a way to play inside out. And Wes Miller said it last night. This team is at their best when they do that. And if Baba Miller continues to play at that rate, last night was pretty fun and pretty special to watch, Russ, when he had the ball in the paint. But they're going to need Baba Miller to have at least 18 points again on Saturday or on Sunday if they want any chance of winning this game.
I'm with you, Neil, and they need to gang rebounds. Gang rebound against the Clemson team that uses their slowed down pace and maniacal rebounding to put teams in brutal spots possession-wise. Brutal spots. It just becomes a math issue, Neil. If you get out-rebounded like teams have gotten out-rebounded by 8, 9 boards per game against a team in Clemson that's going to go and slow things down on the other ends, you're just going to be left with so few possessions that you're going to have to be super efficient offensively with those. And we know Cincinnati has not been a super efficient offense, even with a lot of possessions this season, let alone what are going to be slimmed down opportunities, most likely tracking in this game against a Clemson team that has a clear identity, knows how they want to boa constrict teams in these type of spots, and is averaging 40.3 rebounds per game. That's 54th nationally to just 32.3 rebounds per game by their opponents, and they don't turn the ball over, Neil. That is not going to be a way for Cincinnati to create transition opportunities very often here. 9 turnovers per game. That's 6th best nationally in the entire country. They literally define boa constrictor that doesn't make any mistakes. And they're going to try to slow this thing down to a crawl across the jungle floor and get a victory over the Cincinnati Bearcats, who, if they fall to 7-5 on the season, Neil, you're looking at it probably most likely at least 13 to 14 conference wins needed right now to make the NCAA tournament, because that would put you at 20 to 21 wins. But even then, you might not be feeling very safe with 20 to 21 wins. 22 is usually the magic number, with 23 almost guaranteeing you a spot in the NCAA tournament. And to get to 22, Neil, with a loss on Sunday, well, that means you're going to have to win at least 14 games, assuming they beat Lipscomb and go 14-4 in the Big 12. It's just something that has not even been close to in the cards for a Wes Miller team, but they have put themselves in that spot and will especially cement themselves in that spot, needing at least 14, maybe 15 wins in conference if they do not win this game on Sunday. So it's about as must win a game in the non-conference as you can get. Big one, 3 p.m. against the Clemson Tigers. I'm rolling with Clemson 70-63, Neil. What do you got?
Give me the Bearcats. I'm going to go 72-68.
Okay, expecting UC to get the dub. We'll see what happens on Sunday afternoon. Taking a quick break as we see what happens with Brendan Sorsby, almost assuredly, according to all the rumblings, headed to Texas Tech, back closer to home and close to his girlfriend who just transferred there from Cincinnati Bearcats volleyball. That was all the news, all the rage this week, along with a new director of player personnel for the Bearcats. And we'll dive into all the transfers going out from Cincinnati Bearcats football coming up on this episode of Bearcat Blitz, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook, where you could bet on the Bearcats with Jizzle James in tow to win the Big 12 regular season conference title. and they're going to be gunning for it, needing all those conference wins after a lowly start in non-con play. And you can gun for a big payday here because if the UC wins the Big 12 in the regular season, it's 125 to 1 payout. $10 gets you 1,250 coming back if you believe in the Jizzle James led Cincinnati Bearcats the rest of the way. FanDuel Sportsbook, the place to bet on college basketball, college football, and all the great American sports action each and every week. Taking a quick break here and getting back to the football side of things on Bearcat Blitz. Bearcat Blitz continues on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman of Cincinnati Bearcats on SI, joined by my co-host, Neil Meyer of the frontofficenews.com. Neil, Brendan Sorsby is heading for a much more lucrative path, whether that be a one-year deal with on a highly paid contract with another team in the college football sphere or to the NFL in what is turning out to be a very thin quarterback prospect class for the 2026 cycle. Either way, Neil, Brendan Sorsby will not be the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bearcats anymore, and he ends his 2-year run as arguably the best statistical passer in the history of the program. I wouldn't say he's the greatest quarterback to ever play here. That distinction goes to Desmond Ridder for what he was just able to accomplish over the 4 years in leading Cincinnati to the college football playoff. But obviously, it's a massive loss. Scott Satterfield said they probably could not have afforded to keep him. They made every offer possible, but sometimes the bids just go higher than you have any possible ability to pay. And Neil, you can't pay your quarterback 50% of your budget on a college football team. It's just not palatable to think that you're going to put together a competent roster. And even paying Brendan Sorsby as much as they did last year, they still weren't able to avoid a 4-game losing streak that they're trying to break in the bowl game.
Yeah, let's dive into it, Russ. So overall, it's not an ideal situation for Cincinnati when you lose your star quarterback in the transfer portal just 2 weeks before a bowl game. But most importantly, I mean, it was worth noting. I mean, it's been reported out there already. Brendan Sorsby was going to be one of the highest sought after players, whether that's the NFL or whether that's the transfer portal. And the transfer portal is wild right now. Everybody knows that there's basically no rules, it seems like. So when this came about, I mean, it was expected from the rip. I mean, anybody who's followed around this program, you probably could have said, hey, after a 7-1 start, then the 4-game skid at the end, everyone kind of had a feeling that this could have been the guaranteed option that happens for Cincinnati football. And you just hate to see what some of these schools are offering because from talking to some of my sources, if they are very accurate sources, by the way, but up north of $3.5 to $4 million is what teams are throwing at a guy like Brendan Sorsby right now. I mean, it's kind of hard not to say no, right? And that's the new era of college athletics. And when those numbers are being tossed around out there, I mean, 1 year, Russ, let's be honest, if he goes and becomes a 3rd-round draft pick right now, I mean, he's making more than 1 year than what he would be making on an NFL rookie contract. So, I mean, it's safe to say that we're probably going to see him in college another year, but you hate to see it for Cincinnati and especially Scott Satterfield and the staff because they did a great job identifying a diamond in the rough in Brendan Sorsby 2 years ago. They get him in here, and then he balls out and has the season that he has and the career that he has had. But then another big school comes in and just drops the Brinks truck right into the parking lot in Clifton and says, hey, come with us. It's going to be hard to compete with that. But for Cincinnati, and like you mentioned, I mean, we asked Scott Satterfield straight up, hey, would you have been able to afford Brendan Sorsby? And he gave us the answer. He kind of gave us the logistical answer on, hey, this is college athletics right now, but to be straight with you guys, probably not, is how he phrased it. But I can say there was a lucrative offer that they were trying their hardest, Russ, to keep Brendan Sorsby. But in this new era of college athletics and NIL, sometimes despite trying as hard as you can, you're not always going to win. So overall, it's a huge loss, but especially with all the rumblings about potential destinations and landing spots, I would hate to see him go in conference, especially with an opportunity to come back to Nippert Stadium next year if all the rumblings are true. But
Yeah, he's going to Texas Tech. It would be stunning, Neil. Absolutely, it would be more stunning than him coming back to Cincinnati at this point if he did not go to Texas Tech.
yeah, and I mean that's all the rumblings that we were hearing. I know some of my sources down at Texas Tech it was funny, Russ, because how this was breaking down. I mean, when transfer portal goes down nowadays, right? Everyone looks for the flight trackers with the coaches and whatnot.
Yeah,
But it was funny because
the YouTube
one of
count.
the one of my sources down at Texas Tech hit me up and was like, "Hey, like, is is X, Y, and Z who just committed to Texas Tech Brendan's significant other?" And I kind of told him, I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Sweet, got the story previewed and locked and ready." Because that's all of us. They apparently
You
a lot
talking
of
about his
people.
girlfriend Gretchen? You
Yeah,
don't need to. You can say the names, Neil.
yeah.
There's
They
no.
all were.
Yeah, you can say who we're talking about here.
They were
There's no
They were
hiding
chasing
what's going on.
They were chasing the girlfriend scoop, and some of the Texas Tech guys hit me up and was, "Hey, is X, Y, and Z it?" And I was like, "No, it's Gretchen. Gretchen is the significant other." And next thing you know, sure enough, she committed right to Texas Tech. Brendan shared it. That went viral. But Russ, the biggest key indicator that he was potentially going to Texas Tech, if all the rumblings are true, was their GM came out and flat out reposted it
Yeah,
right after he made his announcement. And I know everyone's like, "How is this legal in college athletics?"
everything's legal. There are no
Everything's legal.
rules.
Everything is legal. It's social media posts, retweet, and heck, Russ, if it works out in the favor that we all think it's going to happen, James Blanchard just got himself a 2-year contract extension the day after that post came out. So if that is the deal, hey, go be it. But you hate to see Brendan leave, and I mean, Russ, he was great with us, so
Yeah,
he was a blast to cover. I know he actually reached out to me on Tuesday and was like, "Hey, thanks for everything." So it was cool to kind of have that relationship with him. But you wish nothing but the best for him. I mean, he was a great guy, great person to cover. But in the end, when bigger things come calling, opportunity to play at home, potentially more money, I mean, it was a no-brainer for him to kind of hit the portal, if you ask me.
right. There should be no hard feelings towards Brendan Sorsby. This is the day and age we're living in. If there were a salary cap, which would involve a players on contracts and an actual collective bargaining agreement, then this wouldn't be an issue. But that will never happen because it would actually destroy the entire hierarchy of this facade of college sports and amateurism that they're trying to go through here. And it's just left us in this gray area hellscape, basically, where coaches have to re-sign their entire roster every single year. Makes no sense, but that's where we are, and that's where we're covering. We're adapting to it. Speaking of adapting, they're adapting to a new director of player personnel calling the shots and trying to direct the talent eyes for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. Western Kentucky director of recruiting Nick LaMattina coming in to fill Jack Griffith's role, Neil. And then we also had Eddie Hicks leaving the Cincinnati Bearcats football program. He is taking a job with the Arkansas Razorbacks, the same job he had at UC as the cornerbacks coach, now moving on to the SEC. And there's been a bunch of transfers going out, Neil, from the defensive back room. Cincinnati, essentially, Neil, doesn't have a single upperclassman on the docket in the defensive back area. Every single cornerback and safety left on the board is either a sophomore or a freshman. They have to completely rebuild the safety and quarterback positions after Jaquan Sanks entered the portal. You also had a couple other names enter the portal. Amani Arnold. We talked about Christian Harrison earlier this week. That is clearly the biggest area of need on top of quarterback and cornerback. Easy for me to say. The top areas of need on top of needing to do something about those defensive trenches. UC got destroyed through the air, did not create enough havoc last season, only had 2 interceptions, which were the fewest in the entire FBS rankings, FBS hierarchy. They have to find a way, Neil, to get more havoc created up front from that front three that is losing a NFL talent in Dante Corleone and has no one of that caliber coming up in the ranks to replace him. This defense, Neil, is in a tough spot, looking for a new cornerbacks coach and leaving Nick LaMattina, Zach Grant, and the unannounced but rumblings that they have hired a new assistant GM with a lot of work to do on that side of the ball. Plus, you got to find a new quarterback.
Yeah, and Russ, let's be pretty honest here. I mean, when you look down, bowl practices have started. We got the first one on Monday. We're getting here and getting ready here. Right when we finish this show, we're going to be jumping up to Clifton for the second bowl practice of 4 that are open to the media. I mean, Russ, right now, if it stands from what was on that secondary out on the field on Monday, I mean, Cincinnati is. I mean, there's a good chance that you might see some people deep on the roster playing in these bowl games. True freshmen, true sophomores. I mean, Russ, I mean, you're looking down at everything that I have confirmed right now in
I mean,
this
it's a
bowl
joke,
game.
Neil. This is a joke game. The
It
transfer
is.
portal, the college football playoff have destroyed bowl season.
And
They
it doesn't
destroyed them.
help
And who was it? Was it Keegan? Yeah, Keegan Nicholson from Bearcat Journal. He had an interesting idea. Why don't we put the
the bowl
bowls
games in the
in
spring.
week
That was a
zero?
great
No, he
idea.
said week 0. Make them all week 0 so that you get the same bowl status coming back the next year, but you have a new team, your real team. You're going into week 0. That's a defined non-conference cool matchup setup. I think that's the way to do it, because the way they're doing it right now, it has to change. They have to find a way to do something to bring some life back to these bowls, because it's a joke. There's no reason why in year 3 of Scott Satterfield, they should be fielding a similar team on the field as the team that he fielded in his first season, or in the season that Luke Fickell left, which he didn't even get to coach the bowl game. That was Gary Coombs. Like, there's no reason these should be skeleton crews in that season. And then 3 years later, we're flash forwarding and it's another skeleton crew. And it's going to be the same thing next year, Neil, unless Cincinnati makes the college football playoff, because you're going to have guys exiting to go to the transfer portal, your top players not wanting to play in the game because it doesn't mean anything besides a paycheck, especially when you're going to play in the Liberty Bowl. Like, it just doesn't
Especially
carry
when you're
weight for
playing
guys.
especially when you're playing in a bowl game on the day the transfer portal opens.
That as well,
Stupid.
another reason to
Stupid.
move it
It's
outside of
stupid
this
if
part
you
of the
ask me.
calendar.
Because
It
if you
makes
look
no
down
sense.
at the transfer portal window right now, Russ, it's horrible. They should have stuck to the 2 window period. But on top of that, you give it a 1 window period. I'm sorry, but if I'm a guy looking to go into the transfer portal right now, I'm not playing in the bowl game either.
Right, because you get one shot. You
You
get
get
hurt in
one
that.
shot.
You get hurt in that
You
bowl
got
game. You're done. You're screwed. You're
you
absolutely
got
screwed.
you got literally right now. Brendan Sorsby went in. Prime example. I mean, he's got plenty of tape, but guys going in right now, you essentially, Russ, got 2.5 weeks to get your tape put together, to get all the film out there you need, to contact coaches, to take visits. I mean, traveling all over isn't easy. So I mean, you literally got 2 weeks to figure out, okay, where am I going to go? How am I going to get my next step of my career going? The transfer portal window, them making it 1 window was a horrible idea. And if you're anybody on Cincinnati looking into getting into this transfer portal, you're not playing in this bowl game. You're not. And it's pretty easy to say that. And when you look down right now, I mean, Russ, we talk about the secondary. Trey Gullicallard was not out there. Logan Wilson was not out there. Both of those guys are seniors. Don't expect to see them in the bowl game. But yet, on top of it, you probably have 10, 12 guys, arguably, that are in the transfer portal that will not be out there on January 2nd. Now,
Right.
sources did confirm to me, and I did see him out at practice on Monday, Ethan Green, who entered the transfer portal, will play in the bowl game for Cincinnati.
Right.
So that's one positive note to take away from there. I
Basically,
know
like the one position group they don't
don't need.
help.
And
Which is
and
hilarious.
Russ, I mean,
And one more note, Neil. I mentioned almost everybody has exited in the secondary. A guy people probably think of as a secondary member. I think of him kind of close to the line of scrimmage because he plays that star spot. But Antoine Peak Jr. still expected to return.
Still expected
has
to play.
not made any kind of inklings that he will enter the transfer portal and leave his family's long tenured university, which would they cannot afford to lose Antoine Peak, who was one of their 5 best defensive players this season.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too, Russ, while you mentioned Antoine Peak, I mean, just a great guy, but most importantly, I don't see him moving on. I mean, you look at the family legacy, his
Right,
story
he was a
here,
walk-on. I mean,
walk on
they
to
gave him.
scholarship to.
You would think that kind of loyalty would be returned back from Antoine Peak with how they stuck with him through his development.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, Russ. It really is, and I mean, the next 2 weeks could get pretty wild for Cincinnati, but I mean, Russ, if you're Cincinnati, you take the 4.7 million from this bowl game and you start finding something to do with it quickly, because that's all this bowl game is. 4.7 million.
That's all it is.
Navy's
Just a
going to
check.
come out here and run for 90% of their plays, maybe. Or who knows, Russ? They might come out and start slinging the ball around the yard a little bit, knowing that Cincinnati's secondary is completely gone, basically.
Right. And I think it's Blake Horvath. I haven't done my full deep dive into a preview for that game yet, but I think he's a senior, isn't he?
Yep.
So they might just let the old senior, hey, last game at Navy, throw it around the yard, see what that arm's got, because there's nothing really left to lose, as the Navy midshipmen take these games very seriously, as do the service academies, because those guys don't enter the transfer portal. They're in
They
it for
can't opt out. They
Right.
legally cannot opt out.
Right. They can legally, once you sign pen to paper and start getting that free tuition at the service academies, you got to put in your day's work, so to speak, in the in whatever branch of the military you pick that academy from. So just is what it is. A tough spot for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team in this bowl season, and we'll have you covered throughout all of it as the transfer news continues. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Have a great weekend, everybody.
6, Ritter to the end zone, looking for Pierce. Did he hang on? Yes. Touchdown. The back as I've been around. Here he goes again. Busts free. Jerome Ford down the sideline. Foot race. House call. Touchdown. 79 yards. Big one in the Peach Bowl. This is a big one, too. And it's going to go all the way to the house on the first play